What's up, Taiwan? I'm Sandy Chi with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. Taiwan's largest company, chip giant TSMC, is reporting record profits, saying demand is exceeding supply for its AI chips. Our reporter Chris Gorin was at the company's annual shareholders meeting in the northern city of Hsinchu, where TSMC is also facing some controversy.
C.C. Wei, chair and CEO of Taiwan chip giant TSMC, showing a bit of humanity as he apologized to the family of a construction worker who died while building one of their new facilities in Jiayi County.
这个生命是无价的，而且我们也很注重公安。我们有所不足的地方，我必须代表公司致歉。我们实质是很努力的，我们不只是会赚钱，我们还有社会的责任。
It was an emotional touch to an otherwise business-oriented shareholder meeting of the company powering the world's AI boom. Profits are higher than ever, and Wei says in spite of U.S. tariffs and fluctuations in Taiwan's exchange rate, demand for TSMC chips is outpacing supply. The meeting marks 1 year since Wei took the reins as both chair and CEO, and his tenure has seen the company continue to expand abroad in Japan, Germany, and the U.S. But Wei also denied reports that the company is planning to build facilities in the Middle East. That's as TSMC customer NVIDIA is agreeing to large deals to build data centers in the region. But with concerns over workplace safety leading to protests outside the meeting, Taiwan's largest company is no stranger to controversy. Still, with strong global demand, record profits, and a growing international footprint, executives here are hoping that's enough to keep shareholders on their side. Alex Chun and Chris Gorin in Hsinchu for TaiwanPlus.
The U.S. is urging countries to submit their best trade offers by Wednesday, according to Reuters. A draft letter from the U.S. Trade Representative shows the Trump administration is asking partners to make proposals on tariffs and quotas for U.S. agricultural and industrial goods and lay out plans to remove non-tariff barriers. While it's unclear which countries would receive the letter, it's directed at countries already negotiating with the U.S. That might include Japan, Vietnam, and India. Trump administration policies are biting in Taiwan, despite a temporary pause on higher U.S. import tariffs. Companies worried about tariffs have put hundreds of workers on unpaid leave, while the funds for labor insurance and pensions are hemorrhaging money. John Van Triest reports.
Factories like this still have 1 more month to go before the Trump administration is scheduled to reimpose sweeping import tariffs, including on Taiwanese goods. But for many, this reprieve is hardly reassuring. The Labor Ministry says companies bracing for impact have put over 800 workers on unpaid leave, most of them in the manufacturing sector. That's around 30% of the workers on unpaid leave nationwide.
有一家是机械设备制造业，它通报了140人。那这家公司主要做的是减速机轮的齿轮，首次通报要实施减班休息。
Business leaders are hoping the government will lend a hand.
希望政府能够协助企业做税务的减免，比如说所得税，或者是货物税的印花税的减免。
But this call for help comes at a financially awkward time for the government. Its funds for pensions, unemployment, overdue wages, and more depend on investments, and market volatility and exchange rate movements, driven in part by Trump administration policies, have bit hard. By the end of April, losses for the year had reached $6.6 billion US dollars.
金融市场都受到了这个地缘政治跟美国关税贸易政策的影响，应该是说不是只有台股啦，科技类的包括台股或者是像费城半导体这指数，它的跌幅都比较大，都有超过双位数哈。
All of which leaves Taiwan facing more uncertainty. The Labor Ministry believes that in the long run, currency markets will settle down, and already May has seen something of an uptick. But jitters about what Trump will or won't do mean there may be more jolts on the way. Luffy Li and John Van Triest in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
The vote is underway in South Korea as a snap election is held to replace ousted former President Yoon. Polls show Lee Jae-myung from the opposition Democratic Party as the clear frontrunner in the race. He's running against conservative Lee Jung-suk from Yoon's former People Power Party. Yoon was removed from office after he briefly imposed a martial law on the country in December. The move sparked widespread backlash and an ongoing criminal trial. Russia and Ukraine have failed to reach a ceasefire agreement, but they have agreed to exchange thousands of prisoners.
On release of prisoners of war, we agreed to focus on specific categories rather than numbers. We agreed to exchange all for all, seriously wounded and seriously sick prisoners of war.
At peace talks in Istanbul, the two sides also agreed to exchange all prisoners of war under the age of 25, as well as return the bodies of 6,000 soldiers killed in action. But on the question of a ceasefire, the two sides made little progress. The US has called on both Russia and Ukraine to continue negotiations.
This war has been brutal from both sides. Too many people have died, and the president wants this war to end at the negotiating table, and he's made that very clear.
The talks come after a large-scale Ukrainian drone attack, which Kyiv says damaged or destroyed at least 40 Russian aircraft. The suspect behind a firebombing attack in Colorado on Sunday is facing life in prison for 16 counts of attempted murder and a federal hate crime charge. The suspect threw Molotov cocktails at a group holding a vigil for Israeli hostages being held in Gaza. Officials say he had been planning for the attack for a year and was motivated by hatred of what he called the Zionist group. 12 people were injured in the attack.
There were 16 unused Molotov cocktails within arm's reach of the subject at the time of his arrest. So there is no question that the first responders saved lives and prevented further victims from being injured.
The event marks the latest attack on members of America's Jewish community. Marshall Islands President Hilda Heine is in Taiwan for a 6-day visit to mark the 27th anniversary of formal ties between the two countries. It comes as China steps up efforts to woo Pacific Island nations.
Ours is a special and enduring relationship, one grounded in our shared Austronesian heritage and strengthened by mutual respect for each other's democratic systems and our steadfast commitment to the core values of freedom, justice, and the rule of law.
Heine met with President Lai Ching-te, who expressed gratitude to the Marshall Islands, one of Taiwan's 12 remaining diplomatic allies. The two countries are planning to sign several agreements in the next few days to strengthen bilateral cooperation, including in education and aviation. The visit comes just days after China hosted a meeting with top officials from 11 other Pacific Island nations, as it seeks to expand its influence in the region. The family of a Mexican man missing from a Taiwan beach is offering a $50,000 reward for his rescue.
This is Green Island. We believe he's around here or to the north of Taiwan, right down of Okinawa Island. We are all very sad. I'm trying to be strong for my parents.
23-year-old Diego Durante Sanchez was reported missing last week. It's assumed he was swept out to sea after swimming at a beach on Taiwan's outlying Green Island with friends. Sanchez's family says they believe he is still alive. Taiwan's Coast Guard has carried out an extensive search, so far to no avail. In a major step for Taiwanese space exploration, the country is set to make its first mark on the moon with a device made by university students. Working with Japanese startup iSpace, the team is now in the final days before they attempt a landing. As we count down to the lunar landing, here's a second clip of TaiwanPlus's news show, Small Island, Big Ideas, which is all about Taiwanese innovation helping to solve a global problem. In this part, Joyceton meets the people behind the country's first moon probe.
3, 2, 1, ignition.
iSpace's new lander, called Resilience, was one of 2 landers to go up on a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket from the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. That's the first time in history for 2 lunar landers to be carried on the same rocket. And on the Resilience lander is a Taiwan-made device by students from National Central University. This Deep Space Radiation Probe, or DSRP, is Taiwan's first scientific instrument, or payload, to leave low Earth orbit and travel to the moon. Before launch day, I went to the school to meet Zhou Yixuan. She's one of the students who created the DSRP. And I also met with Dr. Lauren Chang, the professor who oversaw the project.
The important thing I think that we play in academia is we oftentimes have the leeway and the need to take risks that other organizations, whether we're talking about corporations or government agencies, might not be able to or might not want to.
It was clear that they had a momentous task on their hands for Taiwan's scientific history.
In Taiwan, we've built a lot of payloads and small satellites for use in low Earth orbit, below 2,000 kilometers altitude, where most spacecraft are. But in Taiwan, we've never actually gone beyond low Earth orbit. We've never gone to deep space. We definitely have never gone to the moon.
With no previous record, the DSRP team basically had to accept the huge risk and still find value in the mission, even if the probe did not work or does not make it to the moon.
When we screw up, we learn.
Dr. Chang's students started building the prototype for the DSRP back in 2021. What it does is measure radiation doses and other aspects of the harsh deep space environment. And though there's been over 140 lunar missions since the 1950s, there's still a lot we don't know about deep space. Zhou worked on the probe's software and testing, and even though it started off as just a school project, it's become much more than that.
因为这个机会，所以可以更进一步去了解 deep space 跟 space 中的环境，还有不同的辐射环境是怎么样的去产生，然后可能会对一些仪器啊，或者是对人类有什么样的影响。那借由这个 project 就很启发，就是自己更有动力去看说，那未来我们还可以做什么样子的研究。
Space scientists around the world have rededicated themselves to the goal of having a long-term human presence on the moon. NASA's Artemis program, set up in 2017, intends to return astronauts to the moon in this decade for the first time since 1972.
On one hand, there's the science, the learning about our nearest neighbor, how it formed, evolved, because a lot of this can tell us about the early history and formation of our own planet. So, it's learning a lot about, the Earth-Moon systems. There's also, the ultimate goal of having a more sustained human presence on the moon, having humans live and work on the lunar surface for long periods of time, and ultimately to get ready to send humans to Mars as well.
Dr. Chang says Taiwan's moon probe can provide key information to make such manned space flights safer.
If you're going to design electronics that are going to function in space, or even if you're going to send astronauts, then you need to be able to determine that given where you're going and how long you're there, how much energy from ionizing radiation your body is going to, or the component is going to absorb. And then based on that estimate, you need to design either a mission or a component or a product that is capable of surviving, functioning for the period of time that you need it to while absorbing that amount of radiation dose. And it's especially challenging because when it comes to radiation dose, it's not something you can measure through remote sensing methods. You actually have to fly an instrument through the environment you want to monitor. So the further away from Earth you go, the less data there is. So that's one reason why we selected this mission objective, because there are not a lot of missions that go to the moon.
You can catch more of that next week. The full episode of Small Island Big Ideas will premiere on YouTube. Search Taiwan Explained by TaiwanPlus. And tune in here tomorrow as we continue the countdown to the moon landing. Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, we take you to the Grand Tomatina Festival in Colombia, where people hurl tomatoes at each other. I'm Sani Chi, take care and see you next time.